Right, hello, and welcome back to yet another video. I noticed that I'm new to YouTube, and I do a lot of music talking, or I'm trying to anyway. And I thought it'd be nice to introduce you to me, so we both can know each other. I do enjoy a lot of music, and I'm going to show you the top. I wouldn't say top 10 because I don't want to list them per se, but a couple of artists and kind of stuff that I enjoy. So you can come along with me and you know what I like then. So there's no screaming at me and telling me off because I don't like something you don't. So let's talk about it. So the first artist I want to talk about is a kind of a family orientation sort of thing. A big family thing. My mum was into them, and I quite enjoy them. And that is the Osmonds. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Osmonds are a Mormon band from the 1970s, fairly big with the females. I particularly enjoy them because they are quite rock and roll when they want to be, and they have some great tracks outside of that. The Plan is one of my favourite albums of all time. Phenomenal band. Really do deserve a lot more love than they get. Great band. The second band that I want to talk about is the Stranglers. Now, for those of you who don't know the Stranglers were a punk band from the 1970s, British punk band from the 1970s, fronted by a man called Hugh Cornwell and J.J. Brunel. Very underrated punk band. Definitely deserves more love, and definitely one of the artists of the who fronted the punk era over in the UK. People talk about people like the Sex Pistols. But to me, I think the Stranglers deserve some of that credit as well, with songs like Golden Brown, No More Heroes, Get a Grip, Peaches. So they all deserve a bit more love than they get. Great punk band, and if you are into punk, I do recommend them a lot, especially the albums Black and White and Raticus Nauticus, or is it known as 4 now? 2 great albums. So we're kind of coming off this now, and we're going on to kind of other bits and pieces. So we have the Beatles. Do I have to introduce them? The Beatles are a British Liverpudlian band. They're a British they're the Beatles. Now we have a the Beatles. Now, the Beatles are a British band from the 1960s who produced like 12 great albums that deserve a lot of love. And they really get it. So I'm not going to stay on these for so long. Great band, great artist, and as you can tell, oh, maybe you can't see, but there's a glass unit there full of Beatles memorabilia because I'm just that much of a fan. Great band, big thing with my family, and yes, great artist altogether. Bless me. Next we're going off we'll stick on the rock and roll. We have My Chemical Romance. Now, those of you who don't know, the elderly lot, I'm looking at you, they're an emo band that deserves a lot more love. They were big in the 2000s, and they were produced 4 phenomenal albums. Really were magnum opuses, I guess you could say, of the emo genre. Well, they're not really emo, they're just punk rock. Definitely deserves the credit of rock now. This isn't my favourite album. It's my favourite My Chemical Romance album. 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. And I'm getting sick and tired of people saying you can't like My Chemical Romance because they're emo. Shut up! My Chem is great. So yeah, My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers. Fantastic album. Great band altogether, and definitely does deserve more love. Then we have David Bowie. David Bowie is a phenomenal artist, no matter what era of music you're looking for. Great man, great music, and really did always find ways to top himself in the sense of musical prowess, I guess you could say. Stuff from Life, Ziggy Stardust to Aladdin Sage to Station to Station to Scary Monsters, all the way up. Phenomenal albums. The guy just couldn't do anything wrong. Now, I'm not a big fan, and I'm going to get some hate for this. I'm not a big fan of his later stuff, like his 2000 stuff. Except Valentine's Day, that's a great song. But his 80s, 90s, his 70s, 80s, and 90s stuff, phenomenal. Really great artist he is. So now we're coming off that, and we're going on to more, I'd like to say, swing. Not swing, sorry, more 40s related stuff. And we have Bobby Darin. Now, those of you who don't know, Bobby Darin was very much in the same vein as Frank Sinatra, but slightly more rock and roll. Not many people talk about him. Mac the Knife gets talked about a fair bit. But I do like Bobby Darin. He offers what Frank did, but slightly more rock and roll. Now, I'm not saying he's better than Frank. I will come to Frank in a minute. Spoilers. But Bobby Darin offers a lot more in the sense of what Frank Sinatra did, but with a rock and roll turn on it. With his later career, he did tend to go off to more of the weed related stuff and kind of got high and kind of tried to do the 60s rock and roll stuff, and that's up to you to like it. But to me, his crown and glory are these 5 albums right here. Great albums, may I say, and well, really got some crackers on there. Clementine, Beyond the Sea, Splish Splash, just great albums, and very much deserving of everyone's love. I think is Bobby Darin. So now we're coming up to the last few. You can see here there's one of them, but we'll get to that last. So we have Frank Sinatra. Phenomenal artist is Frank Sinatra. Definitely deserving of his credits. I do have a collection of Frank Sinatra related stuff. I picked this one out at random because it's the only, the biggest one. Phenomenal artist is Frank Sinatra. Very much a standout from his time. And he worried when he was alive that he would be forgotten about due to Elvis and the Beatles and all that. And now look at him. He's carved his own way, I guess you could say. He's a great artist. Personal favourite of mine is In the Wee Small Hours. But any of his Capitol work from like 1950 up until 1960 was just great. If you haven't heard it, give it a listen because it's just non-stop great. And even after that, there's some great stuff out of there. But nothing can beat when Frank went to Capitol because it is his peak period, and definitely deserves everyone's love. Now, we're going to talk about Dean Martin. Now, Dean Martin is in correlation to Frank Sinatra in the sense that he doesn't get as much love as Frank does because Frank is the chairman of the board. But Dean Martin is a phenomenal singer. Frank is very much, the way I look at it is, the way I look at it is, if you're sad and lonely, Frank's your man. If you're in love, Dean Martin's your man. That's the way I always look at it. He did some phenomenal tracks. He had the voice that could serenade anyone. And I think some of the songs that he put out were sometimes slightly better than Frank. Not all the time, just a tad bits better. And now we're going to come to the controversial one. Now, none of them to me seem very controversial. But the music elitists will probably eat my ass for this next one. And it is Boyzone. Yes, Boyzone. Now, I'm not saying that they're better than any of the ones that I've listed here. I am not. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But for me, they're a guilty pleasure. A bit like people would Take That, a bit like people with Westlife, a bit like people with Five, Backstreet Boys, whatever. Boyzone is mine. Boyzone definitely deserves a lot more love. They're simple pop music, and you can't go wrong with that. They've done some great singles. They've done some fantastic albums. Maybe not after the band member Stephen Gatley died. I'm not going to say that. Up until Gatley, though, great albums, great singles. Really did produce a great selection of songs. Are they groundbreaking? Probably not. I'm not going to sit here and say they produced on the caliber, or they got songs on the caliber of Pink Floyd or Frank Sinatra or the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or whoever. Still great artists in my opinion. Phenomenal, and easy to listen to. And yes. Anyhoozle, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed getting to know me. If you have, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I shall see you